All right, we'll call this meeting to order. It's 11:05. We call the meeting to order. First item on the agenda is the November 16th, 2022 minutes. Before we go on to that, I'll mention I talked to Kelly a few minutes ago. He's got a ruling on that we don't have to have the people here that were here at the time of the meeting, but basically you have the ability at that time to ask questions about it or whatever. So if somebody's got a question about the meeting, they can ask that question, but otherwise we'll just vote on it and everybody be happy.
Great.
All right, so I'll make a motion we accept the November 16th meeting minutes. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Next, we've got the financial report. I don't think anything is new. That we do have a budget committee working on a budget for next year. So that will we'll get that probably. We're going to have to keep Matt on extra long to get that budget done. He won't be allowed to leave until that's finished.
Technically, it has till the end of the year, right?
Yeah, well, yeah. I think.
17 more days.
All right, so all right, nothing's really changed in it this month. Nothing noteworthy. We're moving towards having more funds next year. We're also moving towards consolidating the East End and the Gateway, and I'm presuming that for the January meeting, I might have that set up.
Hey, Mike.
Yes.
That's probably more a question for you, Dwayne. Last year, our winter, fall revenues came in.
Oh, yeah.
December 10th. Have those come in yet?
I think they just came in. This is last.
But you
week.
don't know what the numbers are?
I can't give you the numbers right off the top of my head. I didn't look this morning.
Okay.
But I know Carrie's received them because they went to the accounts.
If you could forward those when you
Okay.
get a chance, that'd be awesome.
Sure.
To finish up that other.
It's all the same thing. It was the 10th last year.
Yeah.
That'd be good.
Sir?
Okay. So I will make a motion that we accept the financial report as presented. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign.
Now, not about those reports, but I am curious, when are you guys consolidating funds for the Gateway?
Beginning of the
It'd
year.
be 1/1?
Yeah, I think we've got everything paid out, and we were waiting to make sure that we had stuff separated out because some of it was designated specifically for that.
So yeah, that makes sense. I mean, because it's really a consolidation of checking accounts is what it really is.
We've also got to establish the accounts for
Right.
the mall and and Lexington and everything, so we'll get them all established at the same time.
The next thing in your packet is the estimated distributions from Baker Tilly. This is thanks to John Michael and Matt. And so there's a page in here that shows the consolidated, what they expect it to be. And we had an interesting internal debate as to why it's been up so much, and we think maybe it's the fact that we thought that they made a mistake years ago when Walmart came in and they did not do the parcels correctly, which is, I think, a rule of thumb for everybody down the road. At the time, they were going to save money and pay the president to manage that kind of stuff. And at the time, I said, "Are you qualified to be, a lawyer and an accountant and all this kind of stuff?" And he said, "Of course I am." And so we didn't get money from that for all these years. So we're not sure. I thought that the idea was they set a new floor, and so we would never get money. But we think that that's where this increase is coming from, is maybe the Walmart or any other new construction. I don't know.
There is new construction and then the reassessment of everything around the new mall development.
That could be, yeah. So, anyway, if they are correct, I mean, these are their projections, not necessarily. I mean, this is their first bite of this apple. So you'll see there it's got the consolidated, it's got the airport, which a lot of times we call the industrial park. It's got downtown, the Solai Hotel and the Junction, which is the mall, and those, we'll add those next year. We're also looking looking to add some kind of a balance sheet, or, which maybe it's just a property sheet that just says, we're getting properties that we are basically the gatekeeper of for a while, it becomes our possession, but we don't show the value of those anywhere. So we should probably somewhere show that either we purchased a property, or we were given a property or whatever, and it has a certain value. And then at some point, a lot of times we give those away as part of the incentive for the business coming in or whatever, give them that. So I think we'll add that sheet to that next year too, in some fashion. I'll have to ask. Probably Aaron's probably the keeper of, now what do we own now? What property? I think we haven't paid for some of them, I think, too. I think we still have some things outstanding, I think, with LMU, I think. Okay, so anyway, this sheet just gives you some information about that. Baker Tilly's asked to come for their annual meeting. They usually come in the fall. Because there's been so much stuff going on with they've got the new jail. They've got a bunch of stuff that Baker Tilly as an organization is working on, that they thought it'd be better to come at the beginning of the year and kind of give us a breakdown of that information. So that kind of gets where we're at. I'm a little surprised that the industrial park or the airport's down. It's always very hard. I can say last year I got surprised by the fact that, some people pay their taxes all at the front end of the year. And so we had a lower number. I said, hey, what happened? How, some people not pay or, whatever. No, they paid in advance, and their May payment was their whole year payment. So I don't know I'm not sure how Baker Tilly pulls this. They surely.
Well, I think some of that is, Hart's Mountain was vacant and for a period of time there, Logan Stampings took it on, but I think Logan Stampings got a
Abatement.
abatement, didn't they, Bill, when they got that? They didn't?
You can't get a big economic system.
Well, I thought on their upgrades, but they didn't.
No, they got a lot of assistance.
Okay.
So, and I can check for delinquencies. There could have been a year, like last year, you could receive somebody's delinquent payment in addition to the normal payment. Now this is the normalized number, or reverse of that. So I can kind of check the history for those 8 companies and see if they paid on time or didn't pay at all.
Two of the properties had pretty big upgrades, and then I would agree with Mike, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense because BHJ added $10 million project, Logan Stampings increased by quite a bit, so to me, the valuation should have increased substantially just from those two investments alone.
Stamping purchase may have occurred. It was assessed real high and they paid low numbers.
Oh, yeah.
I'll check.
But it is, I guess it's the property, it's not the equipment and stuff like that, so. It's just one of those curious things you look at and think, that doesn't seem right. Okay, so that's just basically for your information. The next thing is listed as a invoice for Crossroad Engineering. That's not our bill. The mayor's office has graciously accepted that thing, so ignore that. Okay, moving into new business. Aaron's got some stuff here, some resolutions. We finally finished this.
So,
2 years, I think it is.
yeah, so we finished Sixth Street. There are a few invoices that are still coming in. I know Logansport Utilities still needs to submit theirs. You've paid out all of the concrete work, solid finish work. This is to finish out the tree work along Sixth Street, but there wasn't a resolution, and so to just clean up everything, we felt like bringing a resolution for the invoice to just make sure everything matches up correctly. So that was $4,597.10.
All right. I'll make a motion that we accept Resolution 2022-337, Resolution of the Redevelopment Commission of the City of Logansport, Indiana, authorizing funds for downtown trees on 6th Street. The amount is will not exceed $4,598, and it is for Spring Creek Landscaping. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion, questions? All right, all those in favor signify by a sign of aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. The motion passes 3-4-2-0. Perry was sick, by the way, and so he sends his wishes to us. All right. Next is Resolution 2022-335, also from Aaron.
So we are finishing up the survey work. I do not have the schedule of when they're coming. I have to follow up with them. But they've worked with LU to finalize all the easements on the property. So when they come back to finish everything, I told them, make sure that LU is available to make sure where those easements are actually supposed to be. After that's done, we'll need to do the deed work and the prep work for that. So I'm going ahead and moving forward with asking for that so that when that survey is done, we can start moving forward on that right away. So that's $250.
Right. I'll make a motion to receive Resolution 2022-335, resolution of the Redevelopment Commission of the City of Logansport, Indiana, approving the allocation of tax increment financing TIF dollars from the East End TIF Fund for the preparation of deeds on the Race Street, sometimes called On the Banks of the Eel River program, for $250. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? I didn't know it's called On the Banks of the Eel River.
That's the plan that we put in place.
I like it.
so.
Nice. It's like less than Race Street.
And I don't know if you want to amend it to say the combined district. That's just what we kind of had paid out before in that area was the East End.
I
So.
For
I amended
$250.
a couple things on there anyway, just to make the verbiage right.
Okay.
So Mike has that, I think.
Quick formality question, if we're consolidating those funds.
I know, that's what-
Should it say gateway, or should it say consolidate?
That's what we were just
That's what
talking
we were just
about.
talking about.
You were too.
I just said, at the time that I submitted them, that's where we had been pulling things from for that area, so that's what I put in, but it's the combined.
Yeah. It's gonna take a while to get this stuff. I saw, last time we had those different changes in the account numbers, and I saw on something or other, the Board of Works had the old number or something, so we'll get it straight sooner or later. Okay, no further discussion. All those in favor of Resolution 2022-335, signify by sign of aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 4-0. All right, Resolution 2022-336.
So you can kind of see in your packet here, it's kind of going in order of steps, next steps for each phase of the Riverside area. And so we need to do the 2 appraisals before we can do the RFP, which all of us really love that we have to spend that. But I did get estimates, so we're looking at $4,500 to do 2 appraisals for that area.
All right. I'll make a motion to accept Resolution 2022-336, resolution of the Redevelopment Commission of the City of Logansport, Indiana, approving the allocation of tax increment financing TIF dollars to the East End TIF district for 2 appraisals and the amount of $4,500. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor signify by a sign of aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 4-0. Okay. Now, Mr. Bill. Or should I call you Billy? I know you like,
Call me
you like being called Billy.
I can call you Carl.
I hear it in City Council. I like to call you Billy.
All right. On the appraisal situation, John Michael and I did talk to our state rep about this issue. He has drafted a House bill, and he sent it to us. The particular amendment, or how he has it written wouldn't help in this situation, but it's a step in the right. It's raising the dollar amount threshold upward. We haven't gotten back to him. This was just yesterday, but we're going to shoot for maybe 1 appraisal, maybe not 2, and maybe increase it even higher.
Yeah.
But we'll take his guidance. But he is working on it, which was
Yep.
it showed progress. Why am I here? Real quick on the numbers, I quickly looked up some numbers in the industrial park. I think why it's out of whack. In 2022, Carter Fuel had some tax situations from the previous year. They wrote a check for $142,000 in the fall of '22, which was double their normal. So you would have had that in your number for 2022. BHJ doubled in assessment. So their taxes went to 73,000 annually, which is pretty much doubled. And Logan Stamping stayed pretty much neutral. They raised about $500,000 in assessment, but for the most part, it was neutral. So I'm guessing if you'd have looked at your guesstimated 22 and not your actual 22, this would be a much higher increase. I don't know. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but
The other thing, since you guys are back there, is what about our 50%? We were supposed to raise that, leave that at 165. Next year, we're not supposed to have that 50% pass-through.
I'm not supposed to. Yeah, maybe ask for,
Still for Baker Tilly, because.
yeah, but that's some stuff going on that keep
That's
into it.
helpful, yeah.
Yeah. With the deed prep that you just approved and the 2 appraisals you just approved, once those are back and recorded, I would like to engage on the next resolution, which would be to work with Bose McKinney again on this. It's a little different than your typical RFP because we have determined we want an event center, so it has to be written in specifics of what type and where, and it's not your just throw out an idea and see if it sticks. This is we want to keep it concise in what we want, and we've talked about what we want for a long time. So I would like for them to be hired again for this. They think it'll be up to 5,000. I think it'll be less because they said they would do deed preparations and things like that. I just think it's best for us to keep it clean with a group that does this all the time, make sure we do it right. The resolution that's in your packet has some amendments that you guys just discussed. It'd be just like the deed and the appraisals. So we would like to have those amendments as well on this one.
But as I understand it, both the RFP and the crossroads will be very similar to what was done for Lexington Village, correct?
Yes, just
Just more detail.
varying amounts, yes, correct.
Sorry. Still working on your last question. Okay. Just real quick, I looked back at the history of the distribution, and last year they projected we would get 316,000. But we had that deal where the pass-through, the county didn't get the paperwork done, and so we didn't get that pass-through through. So they thought it was 316. We got 153 twice, so it's still about 300. So but it could be that same thing you're talking about, that when they paid the extra 140 or whatever, the back taxes or whatever, we would have gotten the benefit of that. But we are, compared to a while back, in 2021, we got 118, 2020, we got 109, and 2019, we got 161, and they were projecting 316. So that pass-through is also weird in there, but we did get, we got 103 last year, and now we're up to 2. So, I mean, it's higher than it was, but their number they're showing here, they're saying it's down from 297. Well, that was the amount that they thought we were going to get before we got the paperwork, so.
It would help to get clarification from them because
Yeah.
we've had some pass-through, no pass-through, a mistake. We've
Right.
got reassessments out there more than anywhere.
Yeah.
Just be a good idea to get that clarified.
Yeah, hopefully before the January meeting.
Yeah.
Okay, so, I guess we're back to 338. So I'll make a motion to accept Resolution 2022-338, resolution that Redevelopment Commission of the City of Logansport, Indiana, approving the allocation of tax increment financing, TIF dollars, from the East End TIF District for the professional assistance with the process of soliciting proposals for the purchase of the real property located on the banks of the Eel River, formerly known as Race Street, in the amount of $5,000. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor signify by saying of aye. Aye.
And Mike, I'm just gonna.
You abstain? Okay. So, all those opposed, so we have 3-0 and 1 abstention. Okay. Next. Is Resolution 2022-339. This is yours, too.
This is similar work that was done by Crossroads at Lexington Village. I feel with this development, we need to have this work done and completed for anybody that would step forward and want to develop this. So the proposal is 10 pages. It's for civil engineering services. It talks about several things, as you see, but detention and the stormwater and water quality calculations and the reworking of current underground utilities, architectural drawings. They're going to provide construction drawings. All this work is stuff we'll need for whomever the result of that RFP is. To me, I think it's up to, I would say, this group to provide that so we can move forward with the development.
And we currently are in the process of owning this land also, so.
This work can start because it's not specific to anything, so this is on their schedule if you approve it. We have to wait on the deed and appraisal before we do the RFP, but this can kind of move forward to get things going.
Yeah, I did have someone ask me about this and just that we're spending money to, get a property ready for a tenant and my response was, my understanding is this project's gonna be in the neighborhood of $4 million. And, it's not the same thing as fixing up some old building in town. So, anyway, they seem fine with that. Okay, so I'll make a motion to accept Resolution 2022-339, resolution of the Redevelopment Commission of the City of Logansport, Indiana, approving the allocation of tax increment financing, TIF dollars, to the East End TIF District, professional civil engineering services for the real property located on the banks of the Eel River, formerly known as Race Street, in the amount of $61,000. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by a sign of aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. And I assume you're abstaining.
Abstain.
Okey-doke. And do I need to get a copy of that to you, Bill? A signed copy of the agreement with
Yes,
okay,
please.
will do. We've also passed this information, I guess it came through the mayor's also passed this to, there's a group called the Community Priorities, where this is at also to the Parks Department. They're starting their 5-year plan so they can see how this all matches up. The old Riverside, right now, the old Riverside Drive, which is along the river, dead ends into the parking lot. So all parties are aware that is an issue for the moment, and we'll hopefully be resolved. But with the parks, you never know, where funding comes from, that stuff. So we'll see. Okay. The next item is just for informational purposes. The group that's looking at this event center is called the Eel River Equity Group. They came to us and we sent out an email to you guys last week with a project of this size. They're interested in securing financing at the lowest rate possible, and the Fed had shown some indications that in the fourth quarter they might raise the rate some. So we sent this email out to you guys. It was approved three of us, Suzanne, myself, and Bob approved it, which is a majority. John Michael abstained, and Perry just never got back to it, so. But I talked to him about it. He verbally was in favor of it. He just didn't ever give me an email, which I thought it would be better to have a official email, but his business life's been a little crazy right now. So anyway, that's just for informational purposes. We then provided this letter then to First Farmers Bank and Trust to let them know that, there's a lot of steps that are still in place. So, we're looking to put this out there as we feel that there needs to be an event center for weddings and for other meetings and things like that. And so we've kind of specified that all the work we've done down there with figuring parking lots and buildings and how things are located and that kind of stuff is in that purpose. At the same time, lets the bank know that, there are still some areas that are, if someone else wants to build on an event center in that same place, blah, 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 blah. So anyway, we provided this, and I don't know if this satisfied them, but this has been provided to the bank. And we hope that helps to keep the project moving. Next, we have the invoice for Michael and Stevenson. We've paid them $410 so far. So I don't know if we need to have a different resolution, or I don't remember the wording of the first resolution. This is basically working with Ethan Manning on the property at Chase and Davis Road. Stevenson provided us with the purchase agreement, and then there were some changes to it and some updates and blah, blah, blah. I've attached a copy of the agreement here. At this point, we've not signed the agreement, or I think we approved the purchase of the property a long time ago, but I don't.
No, the deal is going to be a whole reset, because what was approved was a different amount, and
True.
Yeah, not sure the timing. We're in a period of due diligence, I guess. We can't close until January anyway. If he needs it signed, it's probably something you guys should take action on today. If he doesn't, I don't know if he does or not. There's no purchase, there's no commitment at this point. That would be January's meeting. We'll be coming for a full commitment.
And I would say that we probably do want to take action on at least signing this. There's a due diligence period of 120 days once it's fully executed. And that's when we'll do a lot of things, make sure that it can be annexed. All the questions need to be answered before the end of that 120 days. And then if anything doesn't meet whatever we want to meet with, then we wouldn't provide a final approval. So we've kind of provided approval to sign this purchase agreement at a certain dollar amount, knowing that there'll be a final approval that's contingent on all the due diligence items being satisfied. And really, I think it would also need city council to be involved at some point too. So there's a couple in the agreement, you'll see it there. There's some contingencies that have to be met for us to actually be committed, but signing this is the first step to start that due diligence.
Okay. Just to update you guys, at one point in time, there have been some discussions about the roles of everybody, whether we would pay part, the city council pay part, blah, blah, blah. This is going to be another of those cases where we're going to end up owning some land for a while. So it makes probably the most sense, just even in the public wise of this stuff, our role is more of an economic development committee, is to look to the future. This looks to be a property that is good for the future. It allows us to actually tap into Logansport, be in the city. Could be whatever you call that, expand the territory, whatever that's called. So we kind of decided that we should carry the water on this one, the whole water. And then to say, we'll see how Lexington Village turns out, and then we'll have the ability to, this would be I think, probably more upper end homes, though there'll probably be some some regular priced homes along Davis and Chase maybe, and then back out, I assume you'd have maybe some higher level homes, which you had some people make that kind of comment that, the house that they want to build wouldn't be appropriate in Lexington Village. All right, far be it from us to hold down housing prices.
My first thought was 3.02, section 3.02 would give you security that just because you're signing this doesn't mean you approve it.
Okay.
But technically, I guess signing this and going through this process doesn't mean you're approving it. So we might want to put financially approved by the Logansport, or reword that, item B. You see what I'm saying, John Michael? If you approve it today and sign it, it makes it look like you're approving it. Like the
I
funding
think we
of it.
just put that in our wording. I don't necessarily know that we need to revisit how this is laid out.
Or the minutes reflect, you're contingent upon your financial approval.
Sure.
Yeah.
And the reason is, we'll just have to go back to Andrew, we'll have another $200 bill. As long as we capture in the minutes what our intent is, I think we should be okay, and the final financial approval, as long as we note that we'll have to still get final approval from this body and from city council.
Correct.
Today, what we're doing is approving the
This
signing
is
of a purchase
conceptually, we want to move this process forward and do due diligence, but we can't do that.
without.
We're not asking for anything financial at this point.
But I have no problems of agreeing to that as long as that's what it means.
Yes,
That's-
Because I'll go on record saying that I'm not in favor of this at all.
yeah, okay. Okay,
Not from a utility standpoint, is it?
No,
Is there something we need to know? Okay.
no,
All right.
Underground spring out there? No.
yeah.
Okay, so do you want to make a motion as to what you wanted to
yeah, I guess the motion on,
get handoff on my part?
yeah, I think the motion would just be that we approve the signing of the purchase agreement with the contingencies in place that all due diligence items are met, and final approval will still have to be given for purchase at a later date. But allowing us to sign this purchase agreement to initiate the inspection period.
All right.
And you can take all of this part, probably.
Captured it.
Yeah.
Is there a second? I'll second it. All right, any further discussion? All those in favor signify by sign of aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign. The motion passes.
I have a question, now that that's through, regarding this project. For timing of this, is there a reason we would hold off on moving forward with the annexation of that area in the first place? Whether he owns it or the city or Redevelopment Commission owns it, to me, it's in best interests of future development that it get its annexed. Should we start pursuing, whether it's Bose McKinney or Michael and Stevenson, having that process moving forward? Because to me, the faster we can move that process, if we truly are going to be redeveloping it, the more beneficial it is for the city, because you're taking property taxes off of our rolls.
I think we could start kind of like this, what we just approved for the crossroad. I think we could start the process. I think the actual doing it will be easier if we own it compared to him. But
I wouldn't think he would fight it either way, but
I think it was part of a deal he did not want when he owned it, annexed.
He wanted just clarity around it, whether it was going to be annexed when he owned it or we owned it. And I think we provided answer back that we would work to annex it after purchase.
He doesn't
it's going
want,
to take 60 to 90 days to annex something with all the public notices. So, I mean, if you're talking about purchase and due diligence, you're going to have to find that out anyways in this
Right.
process.
That, the goal was to kind of ensure that there's no issue with annexation.
Which means you're
during
going to
our
have to move
120 day.
which means you're going to have to move forward with that process
At
regardless.
at some point, but I guess just the question is, what are all the qualifying factors that we have to meet, and do we meet them? That's the big part during the 120-day due diligence. So with the thought being, once we close, then we would move forward with, if it's a 60 or 90-day process. And you're right, could we do it during the 120, and maybe Ethan would be fine with that? That would void that contingency if it's moved forward.
We will need to contract with somebody to move this process forward. The way I think it's meant to happen, because Ethan doesn't want in the middle of that, is we need a legal opinion from whomever that if hypothetically, if we own this, what percentage chance, or do we have any obstacles to annex it? Because if we hear from Mr. Lehman or whoever is hired that, yeah, you're going to have this, this, and this, and it doesn't look whatever, then we're not going to buy it.
Well, that's exactly why I'm asking if we shouldn't start that process now, because why get appraisals, why get development, why get all the next steps if we already know that it can't be annexed?
That's a good point.
Yeah.
We can move forward in the process, but not actually doing it. We can get legal opinions, I can ask for scope of work from, I'll take Mr. Lehman's guidance on who and him or not. See what that price is, what that would get us. You're right, before we go into appraisals, we haven't even talked about that.
Yeah.
Or scope of work and all that work. Yeah, if we can save 80 grand again to find out yes or no.
Yeah.
What I'm hearing is it's not a problem, but
Right.
you don't want to go on what I'm hearing.
Well, especially, I mean, the intent is to get this back on the property tax rolls with future housing. So if that's the case, then if it's not in the city limits, then you're not
No,
really doing
we
anything
won't
for
do
the
any of
commission.
this if we can't.
Yeah.
How does that work with the county? I mean, we have to ask them to allow us to do that? Or, I mean, do we have a right to annex anything we want to, or how does that work?
I'll mention it for the first time in public record, that this is something that much more aggressive communities do all over the place. I mean, Lebanon just annexed 14,000 acres for a huge industrial park out in the county, literally this week. Places like Zionsville, Noblesville, they own north of Sheridan now because they take big land grabs where it doesn't take as much of a major cost impact to a small land grab. So by taking a big land grab, county's still getting county tax dollars, but it spreads the burden over a much larger footprint. So it actually makes more sense to do than more than just chase, but I understand the intent with this because you're just grabbing that. But I mean, this is something done all over our state in a much more aggressive manner than what we're doing here in Cass County. I know the city's tried to do that a couple times out at the Ag Industrial Park and gotten some backlash, but, I mean, that's the intent behind the whole process, is grabbing as much as you can instead of just these little small carve-outs, but.
So the other part of the scope of work from a legal opinion would be, A, can we do it? B, what's required of us and what timeline to do whatever? Fire hydrants, or is it, what do you have to do what the time period that you have to accomplish within that annexation? I don't think you can just annex it and walk away and say,
Some of them they are. At least I know they are.
Yeah.
And these land grabs, they're not forcing the utility to go out there and do stuff as long as they have utilities. It's kind of an agreement of what you're going to provide for the services of what you're doing. They still stay on wells and septics and all that stuff out in the middle of the county when they're doing it in Boone and Hamilton County and Tippecanoe County.
I will say, if we can't get something satisfied and answers that we need in 120 days, typically we'll just request an extension of our due diligence period. And Ethan has been,
Receptive.
yeah.
Okay. I didn't know if the county could appeal, or I don't know, I didn't know how that worked, if they,
There's a fight process. I mean.
it seems like usually it's like landowners that are around you that are upset or whatever.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's just, that's why it's going to be easier.
Where are we at? I think all those in favor signify by sign of
We're good.
aye.
We're good, I think.
Aye.
Aye.
Did we already do that? Maybe we
Yeah, we
already
already
did.
did.
All
I was
right.
just asking
You were
questions,
talking,
next steps of
okay.
getting.
All right. Scratch that. All right, next we have, I'm not sure how this is working, so I've got in the packet, but I don't know what Bill probably does. We've
I think
got
it's the
it,
last thing in your packet was a Bose McKinney $40,000 invoice. Rest assured, I'm not asking for that. Within our bond that was closed for Lexington Village, bond expenses are wrapped in that. So I know of 3 invoices that I think the only 3 we're going to get, Baker Tilly, Lehman's office, and Bose McKinney. How it works, though, is, correct me if I'm wrong, Dwayne, RDC would need to approve the invoice to be paid, then it would probably go to Board of Works, and it's paid for out of those bond expenses that has a specific account set up for Verizon, I would imagine, to get that paid. So the total bond expense category, I believe, is like 144,000 and some change from memory. Those 3 invoices add up to about 127. So we stayed under a little bit. But that's where it's being taken care of. So you're approving the invoice, you're not paying for it.
I saw we got a $22,500 came from Baird and whoever they are.
I think that was our premium we got from
That was.
the bond purchase.
That came in before the bond.
So they gave us a 4.5% rate approximately, plus they gave us a premium. So they send a premium check in that you can use for whatever.
Okay. So I didn't know, but then these guys that sent one with their invoice, they have wiring instructions. So I assume they want, and I think I saw someplace they'd like to have their money before the end of the year.
This group is why we have this one up first, is Bose McKinney has requested, if possible, to do it in this fiscal year because their fiscal year ends 12/31. Not fast-tracking it, but we're bringing it forward to this meeting so you can approve it.
So we'll pull out of some fund, one of our funds.
It'll come out of the bond fund.
In the bond,
We have the bond account. We've got all the accounts. We've got 4 different accounts set up for the bond now that we can
Okay.
use. And one of them is the investment or to pay for the expenses.
Oh, so we have some actual. extra
144,000 some
Yeah.
change
Okay. So
came
do I-
out of the
So
bond.
we need to start adding that to our financial stuff too? No?
Yeah, you can. It's up to you.
He's got it all. We had a Baker Tiller meeting for these bonds, and there's separate accounts being set up for all these bonds going on. So it'll funnel through specific Lexington Village bond expense account that he has specific money to pay these 3 invoices.
So we don't need to report on it?
You don't need to report, and you don't need to pay. You just need to approve this invoice.
Payments from those and,
Correct.
okay. Gosh, I was hoping to add some more pages to that.
Yeah.
Okay. Kill another tree. All right, so I guess I'll make a motion that we pay invoice number 11638 to Bose and McKinney's in the sum of $40,000. However, that works with the
Bond proceeds.
bond purchase and proceeds and that stuff. Is that how that's,
I'll second that.
okay? Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor signify by sign of aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have one other thing just that came across our email to us from Aaron. We've got a list of the key building list. This is that key building program we have where you identify buildings in town that are in bad disrepair and then they need to have some helping hand to get them back on the rolls of being a.
So you guys approved the key building program, but on that you have to have a list that are eligible. This list was put together by Logan's Landing Economic Vitality Group. And so what we're doing now is I have given this list to the building commissioner and the fire department to do inspections to see. A lot of these were just like things occurred in the past. Is it still that way? Is it not? Obviously, if it's vacant or not, you can kind of tell, but for the building issues, we really don't know. It's hearsay or what have you. So we put them down. They're going to inspect and give us kind of a report so that you know, if they're coming in for foundation funding, does it really have a foundation problem? Those type of things. So we don't really have anything in the other TIF districts. I haven't really focused in on those. So if you guys have any buildings that you want on the list, I thought this was a good start for them to go and inspect. That's you know, on top of everything else they're doing. So start there, and then now I'm gonna start working on the other areas and get a list of those buildings and then pass it on to them. So as soon as they kind of do their reports, I'll bring that back to you guys, and then you guys can kind of say, keep it on the list, keep it off the list, and approve as you will.
I have a request. Give you more work. I'm sure you love that. Can you look up which of these properties have historical landmark requirements? Just to know, for us to know, or them to know, I guess, going forward, if they get an application that's going to have to meet certain thresholds, that they are at least aware.
Not a problem.
That might even help them identify what other possible grant funding might be available for those properties.
Yeah, and I can do local versus national because it's a little bit different for each of them. So, and if you guys have anything else that you would want on this as well, we just kind of started with what your goal was in the program.
Yep.
Vacant, underutilized.
It's a good list.
I think so. Okay, that's all I have.
Did you guys discuss this in your budget meeting of
Yes.
some money for this?
Yeah, that still needs to be tweaked after the Baker Tilly stuff, but there's substantial dollars for this and facade improvement still.
All right. Okay, any public comments? All right, board member comments, I'll start out just saying it's a sad moment. We have, Matt is leaving the school board at Lewis Cass, and so. So anyway, he's going to be leaving this, he will no longer, he will not live in the city limits, or he no longer qualify to be officially on our board. I hope he, you know, as I say, today was a good example, again, of his knowledge. It's going to be rare that you find anybody in a school board that has the knowledge that he has, and I appreciate the time you've given this board. Say it's been, you know, it's been good, you know. I mean, the stuff at the mall where we had to deal with sewer lines and stuff like that, and we're all going, no, you just flush the toilet, that's what you do. You know, what do you mean you got to put pitch on it? What do you mean? So anyway, I appreciate the time you've given us, and say for a position, I held that position for a while, and you get to speak, but you can't vote, which is kind of interesting. Milt Hess, who's on our legislative committee on our school board, says that there is discussions about allowing that to be a voting position. At the same time, the way the state used to be that you had like 5 years for a TIF district, and then the money went reverted back into the schools. Now it goes 20 years, so you go through 5 mayors potentially, and you know, so it's not, you know, the schools in general are interested in the head count money, so it helps to keep business in town and people in town and that kind of stuff. But the original days when I was first on it, you looked at every situation like, how does this affect the school? Now it is so diluted out in such a time period, it's not. But I sure appreciate the time that you have given to us, and so thank you. We can't afford any kind of nice plaque or anything like that, so we got to save our money for. And then I don't know from the mayor's office. I mean, I know that Bob and I were contacted. They're going to keep us on next term. I assume. I've not heard any negativity about anybody on the board, so I think we're good to go. Okay, so we're all apparently going to be held over for another fun season. Any other comments by anybody?
I'll just say thanks for the interaction. I mean, for all you guys, it's been great. You know, when you come on board like this to make an impact in the community is what you do it for, and for you guys to sacrifice your time like you guys are, for the big paychecks you're getting, you know. Obviously you do it for other reasons. It's been great working with you guys, and after 6 years or 7 years, whatever it is, I've not voted for or against anything. So, you know, I'm safe. You guys are doing a risk.
They call you the Teflon guy. Nothing sticks to me. Well, and I will say, again, you know what, that's a good point. I want to thank everybody in this room, the people that show up, you know, month to month. And in reality, I mean, say, I was on the board back when we had to do pass-throughs because there were no requests for anything. And so a lot of money went back to the schools and to the airport and to the hospitals and everybody else. And this has been quite a fire hose year of just, you know, the number of resolutions we've had. I've had to add a link to some of the pages to get room to fit all the stuff in there. So, and I do think, I personally feel of all the boards I've ever been involved in, this might be the most satisfying because when I'm probably the old guy here in the group, but there's a lot of talk. There's always a lot of talk. We're going to do this. We're going to add second stories downtown. Blah 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 blah. And I'm thinking, okay, it's never going to happen. And I've in the last year and a half or so, I've seen tremendous change and tremendous just things going on. And as I say, I've told Bill this before. I thought back in the day, Skip Cooker was the god of economic development, and it'd be hard to replace him. And I have appreciated Bill, his attention to detail. Skip never had that kind of attention to detail. We were flying a little freer, but just to know these are the dates and this is when you tie stuff together. I appreciate that. I feel very comfortable that that we're not going to get in trouble. When I've seen the stuff that happened in the county with WSP and lack of transparency, I have always tried to put everything in the packet, no secrets. Here it all is. I mean, there are obviously sometimes that Bill's got people that want to be confidential before they commit or whatever, but I appreciate that professionalism. Aaron, again, you've done the queen of resolutions. I mean, you're on it. You're on it. But I think as a team, I really appreciate the way that you guys work together and get these like this I mean, like working ahead. I mean, like this thing it's a case where we could mess around for a year and not get something done. And you guys keep it pushing it on. And it's not because of us up at this table. It's really because of you guys. So I appreciate that. Dave and the city council and Jacob and Mayor Martin, we appreciate what you guys do for us also. I mean, the fact that, just that, I mean, it's just I guess I just feel supported in the fact that, I always feel, I love the school board because you don't know what people's politics are. It's not listed, it's not voted. You may guess at how somebody feels. But I feel like this group is so much the same, is it's about what's best for Logansport. And it rarely has anything to do with what someone's pushing an agenda. It really is more about what's good for Logansport. And so I appreciate all of you guys to not make this political and to make it about what's good. So anyway, this is the end of the year, and I appreciate what you've done, and we'll come back again next year. And Matt, you're always welcome. I'm still working on trying to figure out a consulting type thing.
Yeah, look at all these.
So there could be some consulting thing in your future. So
Mike, talking about looking forward, you do need to look for another school board.
True.
And I think the school board has to approve the acceptance of what your recommendation is.
Yeah.
I don't think it'd be a mayoral, but that's.
It's a little strange because there was a time that I was in Matt's position, and the administration at the time, I was allowed to talk, but I couldn't vote. They didn't actually always like the way I talked, and so they invited me to leave, and they found a loophole someplace that said that the mayor was allowed to select the person for that. Now, back then, they went about 6 months without a school board representative because nobody wanted to do it. And then they also told me, well, the county at that point in time, they found a guy that agreed he wouldn't show up for the meetings, and so, so he wouldn't talk. It's an interesting thing, and to say back then they provided some paragraph for me to read it. At that point, I was fine to say, okay, see you later. But at that point, they were saying that the mayor has the choice of picking somebody. I don't know how that works, because the way the school board works. I mean, they basically say, okay, he wants to be on the parks board, he wants to be on the bid board, who wants to, and if people aren't.
I know how it works when the county's already, I just got a letter from the school board. Your group picked a person. Then it went to the school board that they're at to get their approval. Yes or no.
Okay.
That's what happened to me when I first
Yes,
came
I don't think he can check, but I don't think it's a mayoral thing. I think it's you guys choosing somebody.
You have to choose a school corporation in your TIF districts. So
It either be Lewis County or Logan, that's the only two you can do.
And how do we vet out the person that we're gonna bring forward?
Apparently not very well last time.
And from Logansport, we have, he's on it, I'm conflict. Matt Mayer is on the county's RDC, so that would get conflict, I would think. So you're left with two names from Logan, and whomever.
Ryan Zeck is on the county, so he would be a conflict. So you would just have Tim Johnson, Christy Hull, or Becky Kamalia.
In Logansport, you'd have Milt Hess or Dave McClure. Dave McClure is an interesting fellow.
Remember, you're on the record.
Yeah, no, that's fine. That's fine. I've talked to Milt, and Milt is not a lover of controversy. So he's
Why is
not.
he on the school board?
No comment. Dave, I know you not talked to David on this end as whether, but he for years, he was an engineer, at Chrysler. He now is an engineer for Amazon. I don't know what his schedule is, but he actually has some of the same kind of projects he's been through like you have, that he might be a decent fit. I don't know about the people at Lewis Cass as the,
Not from this kind of perspective.
Yeah.
I mean, just from.
well, we'd be hard pressed to find somebody like you.
Construction, but I mean, Tim Johnson's, I think, operations manager at SUS in town.
Okay.
He's a retired nurse. And then Rick Lee, I forgot about Rick. Rick's town manager out at Walton, so he might be a decent candidate.
Okay.
That's probably the main, Rick Lee
Yeah.
would probably be the only one I would think of would be.
Yeah. The represented area, I mean, the Lewis Cass portion is smaller than the Logansport portion. It's really the industrial park out in that area, which for a while is, one of our bigger districts. So, yeah. Okay.
It might be a good idea to go to Lewis Cass if possible. In the new budget, we have a section for, RDC statutes allow up to 15% of revenues, not balances, to be used for school workforce initiatives. So I plan to bring in January the Career Center here to present some things on their mind for things they're going to work on and what they may need help with. I don't think it'll be a request yet, but kind of give you guys an idea of what they're doing, what the pathways are. Because in the budget that we have put together, it allows up to 15%, but we did 10% across every district. The only guidance I got from Baker Tilly is you need to watch how you spend your industrial park money for this, because that's all Lewis Cass. But we have Lewis Cass students that come to our career center at Logansport. So there's this, just keep that in mind when we get to that point. But I really think this has been a missed opportunity for years. And I'm glad that we were able to put some money in there. And so having a Lewis Cass rep, my point is, might help with that stuff.
If you want me to reach out, I probably would, but I would say Rick Lee would be your number one, probably Tim Johnson would be number two.
Just see if they're interested. I say, and Bill's right. I mean, it's kind of a weird conflict that he's currently the president and the vice president of the school board, and so you kind of have de facto representation, whether you like it or not. Okay. Anything else? All right, we'll adjourn this meeting. Thank you, everybody. Merry Christmas to everybody. Okay.